if you played any of other Kurt Mosier pieces, all of his pieces have a lot of style. They all have their own distinct character, and he does a really good job of writing in different musical styles. It's great. In fact, I heard from a little birdie that he doesn't just write for string orchestra either, that sometimes he ghost writes in some other genres of music. DCI. We have some style changes too. The fugue shouldn't sound like the A theme, and there's perhaps an argument that the style should change a little bit at the coda too. So to be able to do all this, you're going to have the students playing with really good bow technique. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to have the bowing vocabulary to stylize the dance of Iscariot. So if you haven't already, go back and watch my video on bowings, and that'll be a good foundation to start building more stylized technique and musical expression of. If you can't do the basics, well, and you're asking them to do more, it's not going to work very well. And the teaching companion, available on teachingorchestra.com. That's how I have it staged in here. I have all the bowing technique set up first, and then we start adding style here. Okay, so before we can play the forte with the accent, the subito piano, the crescendo, well, do we know how to play the eighth notes? Okay, do we know how to play the quarter note? Can we double down bow? Can we get back on the string? So once we have that, then we can start adding style to it and do it slowly. Don't start quarter note equals 148. Like, give them enough time to where they can do the techniques right. Okay, same thing here. Can we play eighth notes with accents on 1 and 3? Well, if you can't play eighth notes first, how are you going to play it with accents? In the dance of Iscariot, almost all of the style is done by the right hand. Okay, we don't have a whole lot of left hand stylization in the dance of Iscariot. Okay, this isn't the Dvorak string serenade where we're adding like glissandos in places or little slides. Okay, this is not fiddle music. Okay, we're not adding these little slides to make this into a hoedown. In fact, if we turn this into a hoedown, some of our audience members might be offended given the content of the piece and its historical representation. So we probably want to keep the style to the right hand. So let's work on the right hand first, and then we can develop good style. Another thing that we have to understand is that the technique changes when we're going from on the string to off the string. So the on the string playing, if we create an accent or a sforzando or something along those lines that we're trying to represent here, we're going to be using that vertical bow weight into the string, and we're going to be gripping and bending that string so that we can create power that way. That doesn't work when we're playing off the string. It's the opposite, okay? If we start trying to create vertical pressure here when we're playing off the string, we're going to lose sound, not gain sound. And if you don't believe me, just take your bow and just tap it on the string and see how much sound you can get out of it. It's not going to work. So when you want to add accents or when you want to add dynamics, we have to make the bowing more horizontal when we're off the string. What this does is it changes our bowing angle, and it lets the bow connect to the string and stay on the string for longer. As we change the bowing angle, the bow hair will be on the string for a less amount of time, and that's going to reduce the amount of power that we're going to get out. So on the string, we press down. Off the string, we use more horizontal direction. A good exercise might just be to have our students start bouncing like this, and I have done this in my classroom a lot, where I just have them start bouncing in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then I'll start having them go more and more horizontal, and then I'll have them start going more vertical. And they can hear the difference in the sound, and then they know how to manipulate the bow to get the sound that they want. All right, let's look at measure 29. And measure 29, the low strings take over the melody here. And a lot of times we can't really hear what's going on, or we have balance issues or something, and we've got these accents that are not popping out. So and these notes are not accented, and they're marked 2 dynamic levels lower than the low strings. So what do we need to do technically in order to make this happen? Well, I will have my violins and violas move closer to the fingerboard with their bows, and I will have the cellos and basses play closer to the bridge. And when you play these accents closer to the bridge especially, it's going to change the waveform in your sound. When you play closer to the bridge, it changes the waveform, okay? It makes it less round and a little bit more jagged. And what that does is it allows that sound to cut through the orchestra a lot better. When you play closer to the fingerboard, it's opposite, okay? It's more of a, ooh, it's rounder. And so texturally, it's going to be more in the background. So you can use changes in bowing lane to be more effective here. And that's important for style too. What bowing lane should you be in? That's something that a lot of people don't ever think about. And it really affects style. In season 1, episode 8, I do an entire episode on balance and blend, and to make sure that the students understand their roles and how to manipulate their playing so that when they need to come out, they know how to do it. And when they need to take the back seat, okay, they know how to change their technique to do it. Spoiler alert, has a lot to do with bowing lane, where you are in relationship to the bridge and the fingerboard. This is also a problem in the fugue, okay? The initial 8 measures of the fugue are supposed to be more powerful, and when the next instrument comes in, or instruments come in, they need to be the most pronounced thing that's going on. And then the same thing here. So a lot of times we have balance issues, particularly it tends to be in the low strings. The first violins have an advantage because they're playing a fifth above. The lower strings are playing lower. The human ear hears higher frequencies much more easily than lower frequencies. I go over this into more detail in the balance and blend video, but just take my word for it right now. So a lot of this can be manipulated through bowing lane. If we have them play closer to the bridge when they come in, and then we play the last note, beat 4 before the mezzo forte, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the frog back just a little bit so that with our up bow, we travel a little bit closer to the fingerboard, and then we're going to straighten the bow back out so that we're playing closer to the fingerboard. For the mezzo forte section, we'll let the first violins have their turn. We'll let the cellos and basses have their turn. That's how we can change bowing lanes. All right, let's look at 84. 84, we have eighth notes without any staccato markings. This also happens at 40 through 52. We don't see any staccato markings on the eighth notes. We see them on the quarters, but not the eighths. So should there be a style change here, because all of the other ones have the eighth notes, and that's something that you're going to need to interpret and figure out. And some of it might have to do with the technical capabilities of your orchestra, because, how fast is the presto? It just says presto. It doesn't say how fast it's going to be. So how much faster are we going to go? We're already at 148. That's with intensity. So the presto, how much faster is it? Is it 10 clicks? Is it 20 clicks? Is it double time? Like, how much faster are we going to get here? And I've heard orchestras go a bunch of different tempi here, and I think their interpretations are all valid, unless they just fall apart and can't play it. But then you got to think, like, if you're playing off the string and you're going like 182, do your students have the technique to be able to play spiccato eighth notes at 182? So you might have like this ideal sound in your head. It's like, I really wanted to play off the string. I really want it to sound this way. I really want the articulations to line up that way. But don't let perfection get in the way of greatness, okay? Don't let your ideals get in the way of making your students sound the best that they can sound. So how practical is it? You're really going to have to tighten up that spiccato. You're really going to have to get them playing really horizontally and very, very tight to the string. If they can't do that, then just have them play it on the string. It's not the end of the world. In either case, no matter what you do here, the violins and violas need to play closer to the fingerboard, and the low strings need to play closer to the bridge. This needs to be very powerful. This is just kind of like the sparkling effect here. This stuff right here is the A theme melody, right? So it needs to come out. And then once we get back to here, we do this retake here, get back to the frog. That's when we get back to the lower bowing lane. Everybody should be in like bowing lane 1.5. So I number my bowing lanes, like 0 would be like on the bridge, and then 1 just like a bow hair's length away from that, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is like pretty much even with the fingerboard. So that gives you a reference point. So 1.5 bowing lane for this, that's gonna give you a really powerful sound. You're going to project, you're going to be able to fill up a hall. When the students play this sforzando piano here, you should see clouds of rosin in the air. Okay, this should look like Los Angeles in 1980. There should just be clouds of stuff everywhere. If not, get out your bow and rosin it, okay, until you see, just clouds of rosin everywhere on that sforzando. It's going to take a lot of grip to play that, and once you grip that string, the rosin's got to come out. If you don't have rosin on your bow, you're not going to be able to grip the string with the bow hair to get that effect. In the next video, I'm going to talk about common problems. I've heard this piece played. It's a very popular piece. I've heard it played by string orchestras from all different grade levels, and a lot of them fall into the same traps. And so in the next video, I'm going to go over these specific cases and try to give you some teaching strategies so that you don't fall into those traps, or rather your students don't fall into those traps. You can keep them from falling into those traps, and they can be successful on their performance of the Dance of Iscariot. We'll see you in the next video on common problems.